Original post. I never thought I'd make it here. How I went from rock bottom to rebuilding my life. Hi, everyone. This is the story I never thought I'd share publicly. But after years of struggle and some victories I'm proud of, I think maybe someone out there needs to hear it. This is the story of how I went from sleeping in my car to running my own small business, and more importantly, rebuilding myself. Chapter 1. Rock Bottom. 5 years ago, I was 29. I had just lost my job at a marketing firm. Layoffs. The same week, my relationship of 7 years ended. I had no savings because I'd been helping my partner pay off debt. When I asked for help, he shrugged and told me I was on my own. With rent overdue and nowhere to go, I packed what little I owned into my beat-up Honda Civic and parked in the corner of a Walmart lot. That first night, I wrapped my coat around me and thought, this can't be my life, not me. But it was. Chapter 2. Survival Mode. Life in a car is humiliating. I'd wake up stiff, freezing, then drag myself into a Starbucks bathroom to wash up. I got good at invisibility. Parking where no one looked twice. Timing showers at the $10 gym I joined just for access, smiling at people during the day while carrying the secret that I had no home. At night, I cried quietly into the steering wheel, but there were small sparks of kindness. A cashier who always slipped me an extra sandwich, a librarian who let me linger past hours without asking questions. I started to write in a notebook, not just my pain, but what I wanted, a safe place, my own business, to feel like a person again. Chapter 3. The Job That Changed Everything. One morning, desperate, I walked into a diner and asked if they needed help. The manager, a no-nonsense woman named Rosa, looked me up and down. "You ever wait tables?" she asked. "No," I admitted. "Good," she said. "No bad habits. Aprons in the back." That job saved me. Rosa was tough, but she taught me everything. Balance plates, manage rude customers, and most importantly, manage myself. Tips weren't much, but enough for gas and cheap food. After 3 months, Rosa handed me an envelope. Inside, a key. "There's a room above the diner," she said. "It's small, but it's yours if you want it." I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Chapter 4. Rebuilding Confidence. Living in that little attic room felt like heaven. 4 walls, a bed, a lock on the door that only I had the key to. I started saving. $20 here, $50 there. I set goals, 1 month rent cushion, then two. I also started reading again. Self-help, finance, business books I borrowed from the library. Every night after my shift, I'd fill pages of my notebook, ideas for a future cafe. Not fancy, just cozy. A place where people like me could sit for hours without being rushed. It sounded ridiculous, but the thought kept me alive. Chapter 5. Setbacks. Progress wasn't smooth. One night my car broke down. Repairs cost $1,400, almost everything I had saved. I nearly gave up, went back to my room, stared at the ceiling, and thought, I'll never get ahead. But then Rosa knocked. "Life doesn't care what you lose," she said, "only what you build after." I wrote that down, taped it to my wall, and I started again. Chapter 6. Taking the Leap. After 2 years of saving, learning, and planning, I had $18,000. It wasn't much, but enough for a lease on a tiny storefront that used to be a laundromat. Everyone said I was crazy. "You'll fail. You're not ready. You don't have investors." But I remembered the nights in my car, the notebook pages filled with ideas, and I signed the lease anyway. I named it Haven Café. Chapter 7. The Struggle. The first year was brutal. Machines broke. Rent went up. Some nights, only 3 customers walked in. I worked 16-hour days, often sleeping on the cafe couch. But slowly, word spread. Students came to study. Older folks came for coffee and a place to sit. A book club started meeting in the back corner. It wasn't just a cafe, it was community. One night, as I wiped tables, a customer said, "I love this place. It feels safe." And I thought, that's all I ever wanted. Chapter 8, Full Circle. Last month, I paid off the cafe's first bank loan. We're profitable. I employ 4 people. I sponsor local events. And when I see someone sitting alone, shoulders heavy, I bring them tea on the house. Because I remember. Chapter 9, Rosa's Rule. The morning the espresso machine died, I learned 2 things. Grief can sound like steam, and Rosa was more than my boss. She was my compass. I called the repair guy. "Earliest I can do is Friday," he said, cheerfully unhelpful. It was Tuesday. Coffee without espresso is sad tea. I was pacing behind the counter when Rosa came in with her keys jangling. "Breathe," she said, like it was a verb I'd forgotten. She took off her jacket, tied on an apron that wasn't hers, and started brewing French press in lined up carafes like a field medic. "We sell what we can make, we comp what we can't, and we'll write everyone's name on a post-it for a free latte Friday. You look them in the eye when you hand it over. That's the rule." By noon, the counter was dotted with pink squares. Javier, 1 oat latte. Priya, 1 cortado. Mrs. Martinez, extra hot, please. I told each person thank you. I meant it so hard it hurt. That night, Rosa counted the till with me. "You didn't fail," she said. "You adjusted." She tapped the jar of Post-its. "These are credit, but they're also trust. Don't lose either." I wrote on my notebook wall quote page, Rosa's rule: sell what you can make, comp with eye contact, protect, trust. Chapter 10, The Lease Hook. 2 months later, a plain envelope slid under the cafe door like a snake. Common Area Maintenance Adjustment, it said. A number with too many commas. A clause I didn't remember signing. "Triple net, sweetheart," said Carmen, my landlord, all charm and red nails in her office that smelled like lemon cleaner. "Trash, snow, general improvements. It's in your lease." I left with a copy that may as well have been in Sanskrit. I wanted to cry and throw up and sell muffins in a field where leases don't exist. Enter Amir, a regular who always ordered drip and read tax code for fun. An accounting student who did nights as a barback. "Let me look," he said, and sat under the fern with a highlighter like it was a thriller. "This section is sloppy," he said, pointing. "No caps on annual increases, no transparency on line items. You can negotiate, and they bill you for the full block snow removal when your frontage is 22 feet. Also, they can't retroactively charge you for last winter." I blinked. "In English?" "Ask for a cap and a reconciliation report. Offer to prepay quarterly in exchange for a ceiling, and remove retroactive charges." We went back to Carmen with a packet Amir had helped me assemble. Polite cover letter, highlighted sections, comparable rates, a neat spreadsheet. Carmen's red nails drummed. "You brought a lawyer?" she said. "Just numbers," I said, trying to hold steady like a radio tower. She exhaled. "Fine, quarterlies with a cap, no back charges, and I want coffee trade for the office." "Deal." I stuck out my hand. Her nails were cool and perfect. I went back to Haven and wrote in the notebook, "Know your numbers, or someone will write them for you." Chapter 11, My Body Sends a Memo. The day after Thanksgiving rush, my right hand went numb while I was tamping. It felt like my fingers were balloons. By afternoon, my chest did a small firework behind my sternum. Not dramatic, just a pop of fear that sent me into the walk-in, where I cried in the cold with my breath fogging the milk. Panic attack, the urgent care doctor said gently, and carpal tunnel. He wrote a prescription for anti-inflammatories and printed stretches. You need rest. I laughed. The sound was a little feral. How? Delegate, he said, like I had a drawer labeled that. I hired Lila the next week, a barista with star earrings and a sketchbook full of botanical drawings. She moved like music. Her first shift, she drew tiny leaves on the to-go lids, and people smiled before they drank. I taught her the register, and she taught me how to breathe while steaming milk. We made a pact. She would take 3 morning opens. I would leave on time twice a week. Rosa stopped by with wrist braces and a look that said, finally. I started therapy with Dr. Singh on Wednesdays at 5. We talked about fear like it was a colleague, about how survival brain tries to run a company, about boundaries that say, I'm still worthy if I lock the door at 6. I put a sign up, closed at 6 p.m., see you at 7 a.m. The first night I locked on time felt like shoplifting. Then it felt like oxygen. Chapter 12. The Free Coffee Problem. Lila had a soft heart. It was one of the reasons I hired her. It was also why I found a comp drink for everyone with a great smile on a Tuesday that was slow enough to hear the refrigerator hum. It's $5, I said softly when I pulled her aside. But $5 times 20 is rent. Her eyes went shiny. They looked like they needed it. So did I said, and we both laughed because crying would have drowned us. We invented the pay it forward wall that day, a cork board by the door with lavender index cards. People could prepay a coffee, write a note, for a job interview day, for someone's long night, for a new mom who hasn't slept. Lila could choose who to gift based on the notes. Customers started pinning their own cards with neat little reminders that kindness is a budget line item too. We tracked it in a simple ledger Amir set up, the wall filled like a patchwork quilt. On Sundays, I'd take 5 minutes just to read the notes and remember why I opened the door. Chapter 13. The Chain Café Opens. They wrapped the corner space in brown paper and hung a banner with clean sans serif font. Brew Lab, grand opening soon. Their menu sign listed drinks that sounded like chemistry and rent money. People asked if I was worried. I'm different, I said out loud. In my chest, a small hurricane. We doubled down on being us. We started quiet hours on weekday mornings for writers and students. Lila hosted Sketch and Sip on Tuesdays. DeAndre, a music teacher who played guitar like rain, offered open mic Thursdays for originals only. No covers, just courage. Brew Lab opened with a drone shot on Instagram and a line. I sent them flowers anyway. The card said, Welcome to the block, Haven. The manager came by and introduced herself, Tiffany, all navy blazer and perfect teeth. Healthy competition, she said. I smiled and meant it mostly. 2 months later, our mornings were steadier. Thursday nights became a thing. People said the cafe felt like home. Brew Lab did fine. We did us. Chapter 14. Glass and Glue. At 2 a.m., my phone jolted me out of the first real sleep I'd had in days. The alarm company, glass break sensor. By the time I got there, police lights threw blueprints across the sidewalk. A front window was shattered into the glitter of 1,000 bad choices. Nothing taken. A rock inside like a mute confession. I wanted to call Rosa. I wanted to call no one. I swept glass with my hands shaking, and blood dotted the dustpan where a shard kissed my thumb. Officer Patel, steady kind eyes under a winter hat, took the report. Random, most likely, he said. But I'll add you to our patrol loop. He paused. Do you have someone to call? I have a broom, I said, and he nodded like that was an answer. By 7 a.m., regulars were waiting on the sidewalk with coffee from the cart I'd dragged outside. DeAndre brought plywood and a drill. Mrs. Martinez arrived in her wheelchair with empanadas and a scolding, "Eat while you cry, mija." A muralist named B, a friend of Lila's, painted the plywood with wildflowers and a line from Lucille Clifton. "Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." Insurance paid fast, for once. A week later, the new window shone. We kept the mural on the back wall with a plaque that said, "This place is held up by hands." Chapter 15, Letters and Numbers. "Letter from the state," Amir said, scanning a crisp envelope that made my stomach do origami. "Sales tax reconciliation. A 1,099 that a vendor filed wrong. An audit notice." "I'm gonna throw up," I said. "You're gonna make tea," he said, "and we're gonna clean books." He came after his bar shift, sleeves rolled, and sat with me until midnight. Receipts in tidy stacks, bank statements reconciled, mileage logs reconstructed with my calendar, and an app I should have used last year. We wrote a letter, assembled documentation, and mailed it with the calm of people who did the work. 2 months later, the state sent a smaller letter. No assessment due. Amir high-fived me so hard my palm stung. I put his name on the wall under advisors, a page in my notebook that felt as important as menu. We switched to proper bookkeeping software and a monthly check-in. I learned what a chart of accounts is, how to set aside tax money so April doesn't feel like a cliff, and why S-Corp makes sense when your salary hits a certain line. None of it was romantic. All of it was power. Chapter 16. My mother, actually. She called on a quiet Tuesday, voice careful like stepping on ice. We hadn't spoken since before the car, before I became a person who needed things she couldn't give. "I saw you in the paper," she said. The local did a small piece on the mural and our Pay It Forward wall. "I'm proud of you." Words I'd wanted at 15 lodged under my ribs like a splinter. She came in the next day, standing small at the threshold with a grocery store bouquet. I made her tea the way she likes it. Too sweet. We said the wrong things, then the right ones, out of order, like people who live in different languages. She looked at the wall of notes. She touched the mural. "You built a place," she said softly. I didn't know how. "I didn't either," I said, "until I had to." She comes once a week now, always sits at the same table, always brings me napkins she folds into stars without meaning to. We are not perfect. We are present. Chapter 17. The Ramp. Mrs. Martinez laughed when she got stuck at our front lip of concrete the first time. "It's 3 inches," she said, "and it's the Grand Canyon." I measured. It was 2.75 inches of not my problem I'd inherited from a previous tenant. It was my problem now. Permits, drawings, a quote that made my throat close. I posted the fundraiser with sweaty palms, hating the ask, loving the reason. The community met the goal in 2 days. A contractor named Jorge donated labor. The city inspector, Mr. Cho, mythically exact, came by with a level and, shockingly, a smile. "This is right," he said. "Thank you for doing right." Mrs. Martinez rolled in that afternoon and parked at a sunbeam. "You know what a ramp is?" she said. "It's a promise." We framed the permit and hung it in the hallway, where everyone looking for the bathroom would see it. Access is policy, not charity. Chapter 18. The Bad Review. At 6:02 p.m. on a Friday, I had finally turned the sign when a woman knocked, frantic. "I just need one latte," she begged. "Please." "I'm so sorry," I said, pointing at the closed. "I have to get to my second job," Lila whispered, eyes pleading with me not to be the one who made her late. My wrist throbbed. My therapist's voice said, "Boundaries keep things alive." I shook my head, tried to be kind, locked the door. By 8 p.m., a tweet called us cold and discriminatory and tagged a dozen local accounts. My phone lit up with strangers telling me what my own heart was. I didn't sleep. At 7 a.m., I posted a statement. I told the exact truth. We were closed. We try to honor hours so staff can get to their lives. Here are our pay it forward hours. Here are places open late. Here is what we are working on. No defensiveness, no corporate paste. A regular sent me security footage that showed me offering a free drip to go from the thermos by the door. The woman refusing, shaking her head, leaving. I didn't post it. I DM'd her privately with an apology for the timing and an offer. Coffee on me, conversation if she wanted. She came in on Monday. We stood at the counter like two people in a story that wasn't about latte foam at all. She cried. I cried. The tweet came down. A different tweet went up that week with a picture of our wall and the mural and the ramp. Caption: This place is what it says it is. Chapter 19. The Storm Night. When the blizzard took out half the grid, the cafe was somehow on the bright side of dark. I propped the door, posted hot soup and sockets, and by dusk, we were a lantern in the white. A paramedic named Nora set up a phone charging station and told stories between calls that made the room lean in. Babies born on kitchen floors, neighbors carrying neighbors. We kept a pot of lentils going and the heat up and the tea free. DeAndre played guitar soft enough that even grief could sit without shouting. A kid built a fort from cafe chairs. A man with a suitcase fell asleep by the window with his head on a scarf someone loaned him. No one took a picture. It felt like prayer. At midnight, Rosa came in with flashlights and blankets and a thermos of her diner's coffee, still hot like a secret. Always keep extra, she said, for nights like this. At 3 a.m., I stood by the door and watched the snow and felt the kind of tired that's mostly awe, and I understood that Haven wasn't my business anymore. It was a room that borrowed its shape from everyone who needed it. Chapter 20. Jay at the door. He looked smaller, or maybe I was bigger. My ex, the one who watched me pack that Honda. He stood under the awning with rain pooling around his shoes and a look I recognized, the brittle pride of someone who has run out of jokes. I heard you did well, he said, eyes on the mural. I could use a job or a loan just to get through a month. Rage did a quick lap, then memory, then the steadiness I built cup by cup. No, I said, and watched the surprise stretch his face. But I can give you resources. I wrote down a list. A shelter with case managers, Rosa's diner. She'll give you a shift if you show up on time. Amir's number for a resume brush-up clinic at the community center. A pay-it-forward card for meals for a week. He took the paper like a map. He didn't thank me. He left. That was fine. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against the cool glass and felt something like forgiveness dissolve. Not of him. Of the version of me who would have said yes to stay good. Chapter 21. The Grant. A flyer on the community board by the bathroom. City micro grant for small businesses improving access and inclusion. The application asked questions that sounded like they were written by someone who had sat in my storm night. Who does your space hold? How do you measure welcome? I wrote about the wall of notes, the ramp, the nights we became heat and a socket, the mural we kept because it felt honest. We got the grant, $10,000. We used it to install acoustic panels for sensory-friendly hours and two low tables that wheelchairs could tuck under fully. We added a shelf of free books for kids in 3 languages and a quiet corner sign with a lamp that glowed like a golden answer. Mr. Cho came back and inspected our new handrails with the pride of a man who collects right angles. "You're making my job easy," he said. I told him no one had ever said that to me. He smiled the smallest smile that has ever rearranged my day. Chapter 22. The apprenticeship. Can I learn? A teenager asked, hovering by the register, eyes flicking between my hands and Lila's latte art, like we were doing something that mattered. We were. We started Bean to Being on Saturdays, paid apprenticeships for teens who wanted job skills without the experience required joke. Amir taught a budgeting hour. Rosa came in for a workshop called Hard Things Said Kindly. DeAndre ran a mic clinic, how to stand in front of people and not disappear. Lila taught art and milk as meditation. At the end of the first cohort, we held a graduation where everyone made a cappuccino for someone they loved. Mrs. Martinez cried like an auntie. I cried like a person whose car was once a bedroom and was now a classroom. Chapter 23. Health Again. Success can be a new kind of burnout wearing better shoes. I felt it coming. The old numb fingers, the chest sparkler. I hired a part-time manager, Mel, a logistics wizard who color codes calendars like NASA. My job description changed. Vision, people, money, story. I taped it above my desk so I would stop plunging the sink to feel useful when useful was a spreadsheet and a conversation and a nap. Dr. Singh smiled when I said nap like a confession. Rest is a strategy, she said. I wrote it on a post-it and stuck it to the espresso machine where only I could see. Chapter 24. The Choice. A real estate guy in a pressed shirt pitched me on a second location across town. Strike while the brand is hot, he said, like I was a pan. I took the folder home and stared at the numbers. We could do it. Maybe. If nothing broke and no one got sick and rent didn't jump and the world behaved like math. I walked to the cafe at dawn and sat with the lights off and listened to the building breathe. I put my hand on the mural. I looked at the ramp. I flipped through the pay it forward cards. I read the notes. I thought about the storm night and the class and Mrs. Martinez's promise word. I said out loud to the empty room that wasn't empty, depth over breadth. We didn't open a second location. We opened the door, again better. Epilogue, what we keep. I still have the first notebook, the page that says a safe place, my own business, to feel like a person again. I add to it now, to be a place where other people feel like people again. It's messier, it's truer. Rosa still pops in and pretends not to cry when she sees a line. Amir runs an actual CPA practice and still drinks drip like it's a religion. Lila has a print on our wall that people buy on rainy days. Mrs. Martinez corrects our Spanish labels and brings Tia mails on cold mornings. Officer Patel comes on his day off and sits by the window without his radio, which feels like a compliment. Mr. Cho sent a holiday card, a perfect square with perfect margins, and I laughed for a whole minute. Sometimes I see someone staring at the mural, shoulders heavy. I bring them tea on the house, just like I promised myself I would. I look them in the eye when I hand it over. Because the rule, Rosa's rule, the cafe's rule, my rule, is simple. Sell what you can make. Comp with eye contact. Protect trust. And if you're reading this on your phone in a parking lot, your pretending is temporary. I'm not going to lie and say it gets easy. I'm going to say it gets possible. One small decision, one honest ask, one person who sees you, one ramp up 3 inches that changes everything. I made it here not because I never fell, but because I learned how to build while I was still on the ground. The door's open. Come in. There's a seat by the window with your name written on a lavender card.